When it comes to Kendrick Lamar, and when it comes to Drake, apparently giant ice sculptures are now somehow connected to album rollouts. And now that new insider information has started surfacing about what Iceman is actually supposed to be, things are getting interesting. So if you want to hear what this project is really shaping up to become, leave a like and let's jump straight into it. Because yes, this album is reportedly packed with diss tracks. And yes, the main target is exactly who everyone already expects. Before we go any further, it's honestly incredible that Drake managed to get his entire bass band hyped again just by putting giant blocks of ice in public. No music, no snippets, no real previews, yet somehow people are acting like frozen water is a cultural milestone. So leave a like, subscribe, and enjoy the chaos. Because Drake stans are officially treating an ice cube like it's the second coming of hip-hop. All Drake really did was hide something inside a giant sculpture, and suddenly the internet lost its mind.
Clearly, this whole rollout is aimed directly at Drake's younger audience and the streamer culture built around chasing viral moments. But honestly, the rollout itself isn't the important part. What matters is the actual information starting to leak about the album behind the scenes. While people online are busy decoding ice cubes like conspiracy theorists, real details about Iceman are starting to surface. And once you hear what the album reportedly revolves around, especially in 2026, it almost feels absurd. Just to be clear, this isn't some attempt to hype up Iceman. The point here is looking at what industry insiders are actually saying about the project. And based on those reports, the album is apparently centered around something that really shouldn't surprise anyone considering the last 2 years, but somehow still sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. Because no matter how impressive Drake's ice sculptures look visually, none of them actually tell us anything about the music.
Whether you think the ice stunt is brilliant marketing or one of the corniest ideas ever, honestly doesn't matter. What matters is whether the album itself delivers. Right now, Drake's strategy seems completely focused on spectacle over substance. Giant visuals, mysterious rollouts, cinematic episodes, all before people have heard an actual song. And honestly, that probably says a lot about how much confidence exists internally around the music itself. Think about what's actually happening. Drake hasn't released a major single. He hasn't previewed anything substantial. He hasn't given listeners an actual musical reason to trust the project yet. Instead, he put giant ice cubes on display, and people instantly started talking again. That's branding mixed with nostalgia carrying the conversation. And while that may keep his name trending, it still isn't music. Until the songs arrive, none of this really changes anything about Drake's standing in hip-hop.
To be fair though, Drake is clearly putting more effort into this rollout than he has for any album in years. The visuals, the planning, the theatrical elements, everything feels carefully constructed. He obviously understands how important this moment is for his career. But at some point, no amount of presentation can replace the actual music. Eventually, the songs themselves have to justify all the buildup. And that's really the central issue here. Drake keeps teasing music without actually delivering any. The latest rollout gimmick is supposedly a hard drive hidden inside the ice sculpture that contains the release date once the ice melts. So now fans are literally waiting for frozen water to melt in order to learn when the album drops, in 2026, from one of the biggest artists in music history. That's where the Iceman era currently stands.
Instead of staring at ice sculptures all day, let's talk about what the album is reportedly going to contain, because credible insiders are already speaking on it. This is the same source that accurately predicted Baby Keem's announcement timing, Don Toliver's release schedule, and several other major drops this year. And according to them, here's what Iceman supposedly looks like. Drake is reportedly going directly at his enemies throughout the album. Internally, people are calling it his most lyrical project ever. And yes, the release date is apparently hidden inside the ice sculpture. But the important details are really those first two claims. Because once you strip away the marketing language, what people are really describing is a revenge album, a diss-heavy project aimed at everybody Drake feels wronged him over the last 2 years, which honestly lines up perfectly with all the leaks, snippets, and hints surrounding the rollouts.
And as for the claim that this is Drake's most lyrical album, we've honestly heard this kind of hype before. During the rollout for For All the Dogs, similar promises were made. Fans got excited, expectations exploded, and then the album ended up feeling bloated and forgettable for a lot of people. So hearing the same talking point again naturally creates skepticism. Unless Drake completely rebuilt his creative process and team behind the scenes, people have every right to question that claim. What does feel believable is the idea that Iceman could contain more diss tracks than almost any rap album in recent memory. That prediction honestly matches everything we've seen so far. Drake has spent 2 years sitting with frustration, resentment, and unfinished grudges. He's been rewriting responses, flipping "Not Like Us" references in snippets, and continuously revisiting the same emotions. All that energy clearly has to go somewhere eventually, and judging by the rollout, it's about to go toward a lot of people.
Everything coming from OVO points toward the same direction, a confrontational, bars-heavy album centered around beef and its aftermath. And from Drake's perspective, that strategy honestly makes sense commercially. The only recent Drake songs that generated major conversation were directly tied to the Kendrick situation. Meanwhile, tracks unrelated to the beef struggle to make real impact. Drake and his camp clearly understand what audiences still pay attention to. And naturally, sitting at the top of the target list is Kendrick Lamar. Nearly 2 years after Drake first hinted at another round, we're apparently approaching the moment where he finally fires back properly. But honestly, the timeline itself already says a lot. If Drake truly felt confident about his response, would it really take 2 years, giant rollout spectacles, and cinematic episodes to build toward it? The delay hasn't made things feel stronger, it's made the desperation more visible. But here's the real issue no rollout strategy can solve. Drake could theoretically create the greatest diss track ever made. He could completely dismantle Kendrick lyrically. And none of that changes one unavoidable reality. This is still the same artist who brought rap beef into the courtroom and attempted to use legal systems after losing publicly. You cannot spend months treating diss tracks like legal problems and then suddenly return to making diss tracks yourself. The contradiction is impossible to ignore.
And honestly, Kendrick doesn't even need to respond anymore. He can disappear completely and still come out ahead. Because the second Drake officially releases another diss track, while lawsuits connected to rap beef are still hanging over him, every fan, rapper, journalist, and critic is going to immediately point out the hypocrisy. There's no clean way around it. Either diss tracks are part of artistic competition, or they're serious enough to sue over. You can't convincingly argue both sides at once. And honestly, the possible target list for Iceman already sounds ridiculous. Kendrick obviously sits at the center, but beyond him, are we getting shots at Jay-Z over the Super Bowl? More bars for Pusha T? Disses aimed at Tyler, Schoolboy Q, Absol, Pharrell, or anyone connected to Kendrick's camp? Are media personalities like Joe Budden or Ebro getting called out directly? And outside rap entirely, does LeBron James become one of the biggest targets because Drake feels personally betrayed by him?
Based on the leaked snippets we've already heard, the Schoolboy Q references, the repeated flips of Not Like Us, Drake has clearly been obsessing over all these people for a long time. But what complicates everything is Drake's long history of dragging women connected to his rivals into rap beef instead of focusing only on the men themselves. And if names like Whitney, Savannah James, or Virginia Williams end up becoming targets on Iceman too, the backlash is going to be brutal. Because targeting women outside the rap world while simultaneously suing over diss tracks yourself creates an absolute PR nightmare. There's almost no way to spin that positively. And unfortunately for Drake, history strongly suggests he might go there anyway, because that's been part of his pattern for years. Every time he takes that route, it overshadows whatever message he was originally trying to deliver.
Drake also clearly understands that the rollout theatrics are carrying a lot of the weight here. The smoke visuals, the Adonis clips, the giant ice fortress, all of it exists because he knows the music alone may not automatically shift public perception anymore. So instead, he's trying to build atmosphere first, build anticipation first, create the feeling of an event before people even hear the album. Strategically, that actually makes sense, but it only works if the music eventually lives up to the spectacle. And honestly, the biggest issue surrounding Iceman isn't whether the bars are sharp or whether the production sounds good. It's that Drake has damaged his own credibility around rap beef no matter what the album sounds like. He wants to position himself as a major figure in competitive hip-hop while simultaneously participating in legal action that challenges that same culture. He wants to be both aggressor and victim at once. Those identities fundamentally clash.
And that contradiction is probably what will define Iceman more than the music itself.
Even if Drake somehow releases the most energetic and lyrical album of his career, every conversation around it immediately circles back to the lawsuits, back to the legal filings, back to the reality that the same person making aggressive diss music also tried to make diss music legally dangerous. That's the box Drake trapped himself inside. What Drake probably needed instead was a deeply personal album, something about himself instead of Kendrick, LeBron, or everyone else. An album focused on growth, accountability, and understanding why the last 2 years unfolded this way. That kind of project could have changed public perception completely. Instead, it sounds like we're getting an album driven by resentment aimed at everybody except himself. And revenge albums made from wounded pride rarely age well.
Because everything surrounding this rollout, the leaks, the visuals, the insiders, the lawsuits, the giant ice cubes, points toward one uncomfortable reality. Drake still hasn't emotionally processed what happened. He hasn't truly moved on. He hasn't evolved from it. The album feels fueled by unresolved anger rather than artistic clarity, and projects built entirely around bitterness rarely become timeless classics. Meanwhile, the lawsuit is still happening in the background, still ongoing, still attached to every conversation surrounding Drake, which means even after Iceman eventually drops, the narrative won't reset. Every interview, review, reaction, and discussion will still bring the legal situation back into focus. There's no clean slate available while that situation remains unresolved. Because everything surrounding this rollout, the leaks, the visuals, the insiders, the lawsuits, the giant ice cubes, points toward one uncomfortable reality. Drake still hasn't emotionally processed what happened. He hasn't truly moved on. He hasn't evolved from it. The album feels fueled by unresolved anger rather than artistic clarity, and projects built entirely around bitterness rarely become timeless classics. Meanwhile, the lawsuit is still happening in the background, still ongoing, still attached to every conversation surrounding Drake, which means even after Iceman eventually drops, the narrative won't reset. Every interview, review, reaction, and discussion will still bring the legal situation back into focus. There's no clean slate available while that situation remains unresolved.
So, when you combine everything together, the diss-heavy concept, the ongoing lawsuits, Drake's history of targeting women connected to rivals, and the contradiction of making rap beef music while fighting rap beef legally, this starts looking like an album almost designed to fail culturally. Not because Drake suddenly forgot how to make songs, but because the surrounding context makes it nearly impossible for people to receive the music the way he wants. The one thing that genuinely interests me, though, is how Drake plans to address the lawsuit on the album, if he addresses it at all. Because ignoring it completely would create the loudest silence imaginable. Every diss bar would instantly get filtered through that contradiction. And if he tries explaining it away or reframing it, he risks making the situation even worse. At the end of the day, Drake is about to step back into rap beef using the exact same weapon, diss tracks and competitive bars, that he simultaneously spent months trying to challenge legally. And he seems to believe giant rollout spectacles and ice sculptures will distract people from noticing. They won't. Hip-hop remembers everything. And the second this album arrives, that contradiction becomes impossible to separate from the music. And honestly, beyond Kendrick alone, the possible target list on Iceman sounds endless. Kendrick at the top, LeBron potentially next, then Pusha T, Jay-Z, media personalities, women connected to rivals, maybe even celebrities Drake still feels slighted by. Drake has spent 2 years collecting grievances, and if all of them make it onto the album, the sheer level of pettiness could honestly become historic.
But having a massive target list doesn't automatically create good music, and that's exactly the trap Drake might be falling into. An album attacking Kendrick, LeBron, Jay-Z, Pusha T, Schoolboy Q, media personalities, and multiple women won't necessarily feel like a triumphant comeback. To many people, it's going to feel like a public meltdown documented across an album. And honestly, that's what Drake should probably think about most. Not streaming numbers, not social media trends, not what academics says online. The real question is legacy. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when people look back at the Iceman era, the lawsuits, the leaks, the Ice Cube rollout, the theatrics, what story are they going to remember? And right now, it increasingly feels like the story of an artist who couldn't move on from losing and turned bitterness into an entire album. Because the albums that truly last in hip-hop usually reveal something honest about the artist making them. Not just aggression, actual honesty and vulnerability. And an album focused entirely on resentment toward Kendrick Lamar, LeBron James, and Pusha T doesn't really offer that. Instead, it reflects who Drake has emotionally become over the last 2 years, and that image probably won't be flattering. And if Drake really decides to target women throughout this project, Savannah James, Whitney, Virginia Williams, or others, it won't just support Kendrick's criticisms from Not Like Us, it'll reinforce them perfectly. Because one of Kendrick's core portrayals of Drake was somebody who weaponizes women connected to rivals instead of confronting rivals directly. If Drake repeats that behavior on his comeback album, it becomes incredibly self-destructive. So what exactly is Drake trying to accomplish here? What's the actual long-term goal behind releasing a revenge-heavy diss album 2 years after the original battle while lawsuits are still active? Sure, fans will celebrate. Streamers will create endless content. Academics will have material for weeks. But after that, what lasting thing actually comes from it? Because rebuilding respect in music doesn't happen through giant ice cubes and petty bars. It happens through songs that genuinely connect emotionally. And nothing about this rollout suggests that's where things are heading. If Drake really spends this album targeting women connected to rivals, Rihanna, Serena, Whitney, Savannah, Virginia, the backlash is already waiting before the album even arrives. Every diss reinforces Kendrick's narrative. Every flex gets overshadowed by the lawsuits. Every attempt at dominance gets undercut by the last 2 years of public fallout. There really isn't a clean path out anymore. Either Drake ignores the contradictions and gets criticized for it, or he tries explaining them and risks making things worse. And honestly, albums built entirely around unresolved bitterness rarely age gracefully. Right now, Iceman feels less like a comeback and more like a final chapter explaining why Drake's career ended up needing one in the first place.